Welcome to the show, everybody. I want to remind each of you to like and subscribe. The channel is youtube.com/filmtalkradio, and there's about 50 shows you can watch on there. I'm honored to be joined by writer, director, and the great collaborator, Godfrey Reggio. Hi, Godfrey.
Hello, hello.
First, let me congratulate you on the nice mention in the New York Times, the paper of record. So the headline is Machine Dazzle, how many ways can you say fabulous? And it goes on to say the show highlights some work with new collaborators, including his costumes for Once Within a Time, a 50-minute wordless art film by Godfrey Reggio of Koyaanisqatsi, which had its premiere last October at the Santa Fe International Film Festival. One oversized mannequin wears the mud cloth shaman number worn by Mike Tyson, who plays a character called the Mentor.
So I want to say, New York Times, of course, everyone feels is very important. But whether it gets on the New York Times or the Espanola Gazette or the Chama Blue Chili, it has to go on the wall of life. And that's what this film is about. This film is not accepted by the film world because they don't know how to categorize it. Because in this world, we live with the left brain. Everything has to make sense. We're making nonsense. We're speaking to the right brain where the truth is revealed through the dreams that we have. When those are on the wall of life, then Once Within a Time will be dancing its destiny. Now, that's a mouthful. And whether you understand it or not, I think I did. So I'm very happy to have said it.
Well, and Godfrey, I love the film. It's daring, it's thought provoking, it's truly a masterpiece. I think it's also really a wonderful follow up to much of your other work, where the theme is this loss of humanity and nature, and it's now going to be a technological environment that we live in.
Right. Well, the other films, which without having been involved with those, there would be no Once Within a Time movie. Those other films were for hardcore art junkies who were strung out in the alleyways of ancient modernity. So I'm happy for them. They allowed us to see what is hidden in plain sight, the world we live in. That which is most present is least seen. As a filmmaker, you try to change the perspective of what you see. So what we saw was right in front of all of us. We filmed it as if it were Greta Garbo, basically. Now, Once Within a Time is a kiddie katsi, if I can be so bold, because it's made with children for all ages. I've been waiting to make a dramatic film all my life, which means using actors, writing the script, having the genius loci not only be the location of where you're shooting, but being the fantasy of the real that's now going to come from Koyaanisqatsi, Powakatsi, Nakoikatsi, all the other films, and go present in that world. Am I clicking with you a little bit?
I think so.
But children, repel against harshness and severeness, and they don't want to hear that. They jump up and down and put their ears and the fingers in their ears. So you have to do something that's colorful, something that has humor. Baudelaire says childhood is genius recovered. This is made for the child and for the child within you and me. I now, in March, will be 1,000-month-old child. Okay? So children, there has to be humor. Baudelaire says humor is the stigmata of original sin. It's who we are, the incongruity of life. Like there's no such thing as a perfect circle that's geometric. We have to build an irregularity to have regularity, so the clockmaker of the universe says, or Leopold the Great. So what I'm saying is we made something that is at once linear and nonlinear at exactly the same time. We made something that was clear and completely ambiguous at exactly the same time. And we made something in the original Jewish language. Let me explain. The Jews did not use the magic vowels. Every time that they read their book, there was no verb in the book. It was an interpretation. That's why we have so many interpretations of the Old Testament, because they got to complete the story. It was autodidactic. However, the Greeks put in A, E, I, O, U, and a few others and explained it in writing, so that you have to have that clarity. It's not up to you, it's up to the written word. So I prefer the Jewish way. And this film is enshrined in the Jewish sense of language. Like we see the world through language. And we're like sun gazers. We're blind. We live with the gizmo. The gizmo is just a metaphor for technology, which is the way we live. We can't live without it. We can't live with it. It's everywhere. It's all together, all at once. It's invisible. It's electromagnetic spectrums. It's transportations. It's mass man. I would say, remember to forget. So, what's your question?
So I loved how you said it's linear and nonlinear at the same time.
Indeed.
And I know we plan to talk about chaos. So can there be order in chaos? Is bringing some kind of are there systems within it? Within chaos, or is chaos itself a system?
Chaos is a term now defined. So I prefer monad to chaos. A monad is an undefinable singularity. It's a one of one. We live in a complex world. Chaos is who we are. We see an order that we can't understand because our measurement can't put a frame around everything. If we can't measure it, touch it, taste it, smell it, then it's not real for us. With Descartes divorced the phenomena from the noumena. He completed what the Greeks did, so that we can't know anything about the meaning of anything. Everything is chaos. So it's the meaning of the meaning of meaning. And you can study that in schools now. It says about like what comes first, the chicken or the egg, the stupidest rhyme that ever came up. Of course, it's the egg that comes first, the mystic egg that is the vivid unknown. It's the Big Bang. It's the pink of the universe, the prime color of the universe. Be pink, not by me saying it, but by the physicists saying it. Pink
So
is our color.
pink is the prime color of the universe.
Yes. And it's in the black ground of space. Talk about chaos, and that's complex. The stars of our past are in our present.
Yeah, I've heard people say recently that we're stardust, that humans are made up of stardust.
We're all made up of the same thing. We're all together all at once, stardust, souls, and we don't know who we are. Let me give you an example. 60 miles above us or so is the blue sky. About another 3 miles up is the dark of space, the sky, the stars, everything. It's a very small valence. The blue sky above us protects us from the radiation of the sun, but every breath ever taken in the time that anything has been alive on this planet stays within it. And what creates the blue is the death of organic life. I'm not making that up. Ask the scientists. It's All Souls Day, not just in November, all day long, every day. That's where our soul goes. We being part of the universe, there's no example of annihilation once you're here. Okay? None. You can burn it, smell it, bury it, but we don't disappear. We go like the trees and the the wind and the seasons. We die, and out of that decay comes beauty, comes life. That blue valence is the All Souls Day. That is our destiny, and what's beyond that? That's the vivid unknown, the black ground into the leap of pink.
We're back. We're talking with Godfrey Reggio.
So here's the equation. We we tell ourselves, or our knowledge tells us, our intellectuals tell us, we think, therefore we speak. I would like to say that that's a misnomer, just from my point of view. I speak, therefore I think. Speaking is not the handmaiden of thought, it is the mother of thought. To speak is it's orality. Our world is speaking. In speaking, we hear for the first time what our thought may be. I'm speaking to you without notes. I'm speaking to you. I'm hearing my words for the first time. Now, because I've been interviewed, let's say, a few times, I know that my words echo what I said before, but I always say them in a way that I've never heard them before, at least for myself, because myself is you and all those people who have to go through the pain quotient of listening to me today. So I just wanted to make that clear. Everything is subjective. Nothing is objective. And I'm telling you more about me than your question.
Yeah, you brought up Descartes in the last segment, and so it's all your perception, is what you're saying. It's
Yep.
all
It's a perceptive world. Like when the word no longer describes the world we live in, parentheses, we're blind, we're sun gazers all, technology's the new sun. When the word no longer describes the world we live in, where it's describing a world that's no longer here, then it's time for what's called the rebus. And what that means is not by word, but by object, by deed, by act, do we see. Our first lingua franca is body language, facial expression, eye behavior, gesture, where the stars, the wind, the weather are the alphabet of our world. This is who we are. Our language now is not telling us who we are. We have to recreate the language. The Chinese proverb says, in time of maximum social crisis, the single most important thing we may do is rename the world we live in. So we have this opportunity. When you name something, you tattoo it. You give it, like, let me give you an example. Maybe some of you will understand. Let's say there's someone you're in love with, he or she, and you finally build up, you've never talked about it, but you feel it, and you finally build up and you say, I'm in love with you. In saying that, you have created the love because it was only in your mind before. Now, that person could run out of the room, embrace you, live with you forever, or tell you to be gone. But when you say something, you create it. This is the nature of creation. And God said, let there be. And the biggest voice of all is the wind. The wind hears everything. Listen to Dylan, it's blowing in the wind. Listen to Richie Havens. I mean, all the guys, all the poets, the Texas troubadour that motivated all these guys. It's all blowing in the wind, or George and Tammy, or or Stravinsky or Philip Glass or the kids on the plaza. So that's what we have to listen to, rename the world in which we live.
So,
And by the way, places like Los Alamos are renaming the world. They are now stewards of the pile. They rename everything as they canonize the madness that they're doing. They give it names that are acceptable. You don't even know what's being talked about. We are stewards of the pile of shit. What?
yeah, and they're now receiving more money than ever, I recently read in the paper.
Yeah, and if it can be done, it will be done. I can't remember the guy's name from one of the big tech companies that everyone has to use. Andy Grove. He says, watch out. If it can be done, it will be done. Technology has an infinite appetite on a very finite plate. So if it can be done, it's going to be done. We know no limit. The beauty, the power of life is to recognize limit. In that isometric is where chaos disappears.
Well, and I think you're
Complexity doesn't
alluding.
ever disappears. Complexity is who we are.
Are you alluding a bit to also to Prometheus and then the revision of it in Frankenstein, where
Yes, and I mean that was Mary Shelley at 17 giving autonomy to the machine. I mean, way ahead of where we are. Our accomplishments are our afflictions. The price we pay for the pursuit of our technological happiness, you, me, all of us, is the destruction of the finite planet. We just put nice names on it. Listen to adverts on TV sometime, or between the adverts. I'm sure now Richard Eves is going to like this. He's the humor man on your. What an intelligent guy. Anyway, between what you guys say on 103.7 or all these adverts, it's unbelievable what you're advertising. I'm not blaming you, okay, but you're not, you know, Randy Rose. So I'm saying I understand the complexity, and there's much to, it's amazing what the ear may see. And radio is my favorite visual form because as you speak, I can see everything you're saying. I've never read Richard Eves, but I can see him. Favorite one is the one where you can send a package and they say, we do it, we do it, we do it. It's as humorous as possible. Or the guy that repeats the phone number always 5 times. I mean, it's a real lesson. I would think that Richard would have a field day with it.
yeah, I guess I was going to talk more about Randy Rhoads and Tom Hartman on the program.
Oh God.
Yeah, when I first started, or on the
I
station.
listen to Randy knows how to say the same thing in a funny way 10,000 times per hour. And the other guy is so serious and everything is repetitive. Everything. It's like being at home or in school. That's why I like deschooling. But I find it all more than interesting to look
Yeah.
at as much as I can.
Well, they were very anti-war when Air America was formed during the Iraq invasion. And then now, it seems like a lot of these shows are anti-Russian propaganda, or Putin is the cause of all our problems. And so it's just kind of a hard uh, evolution or de-evolution for me to watch, when I'm like, okay, were these people against the war, or were they just for
We'll
making a
never
radio?
know if we hear it in the press. I mean, we don't, it's rare that you'll have an investigative reporter, and things are so complex and chaotic, to use your term, with Putin, with us, with the bomb. I mean, we make everyone else's military on the planet look like Tinker Toys, except for China, and they're gaining, but we're like the super duper. And, you know, We are the man. I mean, we have the power everywhere. Our finger is in every crisis here at home. Take our own community. I mean, New Mexico has the most young people suicides in North America. Okay. And we have the wealthiest people and the poorest people here. We have people sleeping on the streets everywhere. It's in it's not just here, but it's here very noticeable because of the extremity. We're like Calcutta here. I've filmed there, been there. It's like Calcutta. I watch these people trying to stay warm and putting on socks, 3 or 4 pair, and no one can dare look at them, much less help them. You know, early Christians were known for this term. Now it's been sanitized, called hospitality. That meant anybody that came to the door had a meal, had friendship, had love, and a place to stay, no matter how fucking paranoid you were. And now hospitality is, you know, Motel 6 or something.
Everybody, we're back. We're talking with writer, director, the great collaborator, Godfrey Reggio. Godfrey, I know there's a lot of ways we can descend into pessimism with some of the ideas we're getting to, but tell me if there is hope for the future, what that hope is. What can we be excited about and positive about?
Let me use two directions to go. One, a fairy tale, Humpty Dumpty, and the other, a Christian shibboleth called Hope Against Hope. They both say the same thing. They're saying this is a very hopeful thing, I'm going to say. I am a hopeful person, but hope is not of the mind. Okay, I'll get to that. But those that are willing to be hopeless about putting Humpty Dumpty back together, okay, but those that are willing to be hopeless about this world, about trying to make it better, trying to make the pollution better, for those that are hopeless about this world, then they have the hope to create their own world. Fairy tales end in happy endings. This is no fairy tale we're in. We're living in a fantasy of the real. This is a bardic tale that we live in. We live in bardic times like the Iliad and the Odyssey. Those are the times, really. We're at this decision point. And the bardic is not a happy ending. The bardic is a resolute beginning. And it's by the children, not of the future. The children today are the future. The demographics, Greta Thunberg is an example of that. Mike Tyson, these are criminals that are out to fight criminals. That's where hope lies. Hope is for those that are willing to be hopeless. They can fight hope against hope. What is the hope we're fighting against? The hope for more, pray for more, technological abundance, better job, better income, more food, pray for more. Half the countries in the slum, pray for more. Those that have more, and those that have more get more and more and more and more and more, and we have nothing. So let me mention this. If I was in the Soviet Union at the time, say, of the 1940s, their catechism was from Karl Marx. And he asked the question, I'm going to paraphrase. Is it your mind that determines your behavior, or is it your behavior that determines your mind? And for 9 out of 8 of us, we say it's our mind that determines our behavior. The Dalai Lama was in Albuquerque in the early 1990s at the big university hall. He had just given a talk, and he said, I'll take a few questions. And this young lady jumped up and she said, Your Holiness, what's the single most important thing I must do? Routine. Next question. He and Marx are a complete agreement. It's what we do that informs our mind every day. We think we're very intellectual. We study all the books, but we go through the routinization every day. I get people who are going to be 5 minutes late. They call as if, they've missed the boat from Europe to the United States, and they'll be here within 4 minutes and 36 seconds. So we live on the clock. It's we have to act. Hope is in the act, not in the mind. That's willy-nilly. In fact, Aristotle knew, he defined all of the virtues, and hope was the only virtue he denied his own premise. He says you never define a term in terms of it's the same term. He said hope is the substance of things to be hoped for. It's a slippery slope, this hope. Now, I was in Santa Fe the other day. I got to find this. This is worth looking up. I was coming out way on Cerrillos Road, coming in to Santa Fe, and on the east side of the road where all these new little construction are, was a little bitty church made with the finest new development in Santa Fe, with metal and corrugated tin. And it said church as if it were an exit sign, way it was scribed, as if it said exit or Cerrillos, said church, hope for more. The Church of Hope for More. Did you get what I said?
Yeah.
That's right here in Santa Fe. Go to the Church of Hope for More. Pray for more there.
Well, and I think you've talked about the have-nots. The church will tell you that the meek inherit the earth, but the comedian Lenny Bruce pointed out that, a lot of these churches in down and out neighborhoods or slums even have big stained glass windows. And so it gives this, kind of hope that you suffer in this life, but then there's heaven in the afterlife. And then
hell as well.
Yeah.
Hell in the afterlife. I'd say that's ooga That's called ism. That's taking a kernel of truth and making it as if you're speaking for God. We don't speak for God. Nobody can even say his name. His real name is Dog. D-O-G. Look it up. And the guy that knew most about Dog is called who? Enoch, the father of Methuselah, whose book was not accepted in the Codex because it talked about now, and it talked about being taken out into space by what we call UFOs now.
So you talked about the reward being in the doing and in the practice. And
Absolutely.
So is that meditation? Is that ceremony? Is it all of that?
Well, it could be that. I look at it more as contemplation. Plato says more important than intellectual virtue and giftedness is enthos, the God within. Enthusiasm, we call it. The madness of enthusiasm is the wisdom. That's what tells us. What does the madness look at? It looks at the meaning. It looks at the voice. Where is the voice? It's in the location. Every location on this planet has a memory. They don't remember to forget. We do. The memory houses it. The plaza in Santa Fe, the Mesa, Black Mesa, all of that has a memory that never, ever goes away, and it stays in the wind, and it's repeated over and over and over again. That's where the truth lies. It's hidden in plain sight. We have to forget all the tourist indications of it's beautiful, and we have this kind of chill. Let it speak to you. That's what it's about.
I heard that a dog can know the future and the past by smelling who's been there and then smelling in the wind who's on their way. Does that fit into it somehow?
Absolutely. And I mean, you might have revealed why God is named God. Here you are, prophet yourself. I mean, that sounds real good to me. Dogs they can smell you. like dogs are canines. They love you, they protect you, they treat you as God. The dog treats you as God. It turns around. The feline, on the other hand, treats you as an equal, is in another world. But both are there for you. They're just different. So we have felines and canines to take care.
Jean Cocteau, the poet and filmmaker, said that the animus between cats and dogs is a myth, and that in the country they adopt each other.
Indeed. And you can see it at home if you bring them in as babies, because as babies, they don't have concepts, they have experiences, and it's called playing with each other. Have you ever watched the little cat or the little dog at anything that moves? And if there's another little animal, we have not seen ourselves until we've been seen through the eyes of another animal. We are indeed an animal. Now think of this. I hope it's okay to say on 103.7, when you're with your concubinal love, the person you love, and your face is close right up to his or hers, and you're eye to eye, who might you see in the other person's eye? Yourself. Your eye, and I'm not making this up. You'll have to experience it, okay? Because everybody who's different than you sees you better than you may see yourself. Your eyes look out, but they're in the other people's eyes. And I'm not making that up. We can't see ourselves. We think all these things about us. We don't even, I can't see myself unless, of course, I jump out and look at myself doing this. You can do that too. So to go back to your question, what is it? It's enthusiasm. I talked about Plato. It's contemplation, not meditation. I stopped meditating a long time ago. And what contemplation is a gift, not by any virtue. Contemplation means a vision is given to you to see. Whether you can see it, it doesn't mean you do practice every day or you have to be sit perfect and wash your mind of any thought. All that's good, but that's meditation. This is about, the film is about contemplation, offering those that may to see the truth. All mystics have not wanted to know the truth. They've wanted to see and feel the truth. Thomas à Kempis, who wrote The Imitation of Christ, a very well-known, I think, 16th century holy book, says, would you rather know love or feel it? I mean, let's hope we would rather feel love than know it.
Everybody, we're back. We're talking with filmmaker and the great collaborator, Godfrey Reggio. Godfrey, tell me a little bit about the early days and where you come from. I know you've led an amazing life, and we've only just started to touch on you and where you come from.
I'm seventh generation New Orleans. My family has been there from the 1740s, okay? My ancestor who came there was born in Piemonte, Italy, from the Dukes of Ferrara and the House of Este. Lucretia Borgia was married into my family, and I must say she's the most maligned woman in European history. She was the most painted woman after the Virgin Mary, and she was married off by her monster Pope father, Alexander VI, but he gave us astrology in the Vatican. And then when the Duke of Ferrara, an old man, realized what was happening, he married her, didn't touch her, gave her a fortune. She became the protectress of art all over Europe and made an army that no one would mess with, Lucretia Borgia. So my ancestor was called Francesco Maria de Reggio. He came to Louisiana as Francois Marie de Reggio, working as a Marine captain and infantry, big shot for the King of France. He was a mercenary. He was sent to Louisiana when there were less than 5,000 people to set up the forts at Baton Rouge and in Arkansas on the Mississippi River, and to produce order in the thing. To make a long story short, he was a chameleon. He ended up as Francesco Maria de Reggio, the Chavez Regal for the King of Spain. He rewrote the Code Noir. For those of you that don't know what the Code Noir was written by the French, and they felt it was much too liberal. The French showed how to make chattel out of black people. He rewrote it with another member of our family through marriage in a more draconian way, knowing that the Spaniards would never approve it, but knowing that it represented the real feeling of the white people and the Reggio gang, and it would become the Jim and Jane Crow laws that we live under now. It became the basis of legislation after the Civil War. And his great-grandson fired the first shot of the Civil War, Pierre Gustave Toussaint Beauregard. And I'm closer to the monster than he is. His mother was a Reggio. I'm mainline Reggio. So my family comes from a hanging tree. They were the first leaders of the Cabildo, a commission government, not a mayor. They hung people on St. Louis Cathedral. They put their heads on spikes. There are all kind of songs about the Reggio gang going after people. So they're monsters. And I grew up thinking they were great because all my aunts and uncles, the family, except my father, who gave no credence to any of it. So that's how I grew up. Reggio. They were Bolettos, Coladas, Dantes. Only Italians lived in my neighborhood, and some Portuguese guys.
But are you also Jewish?
Well, let me give you the story. I travel a lot. I was in Rome, and I met some scholars from the Angelicum. It's a big university of the Dominicans. And he said, where'd you get that name, Reggio? Oh, well, I'm Frenchman from way back. I didn't know about all this shit at that. He says, well, you're Jewish. He says, that name's older than the Roman Empire. He says, don't you notice that there's GGIO on everything? You know what I mean? Besides REGGIO? I said, no. And then he, boom, boom. So I'm home at Thanksgiving in New Orleans. I have a family right now of about 300 people that get together for a reunion regularly. Can't tell you the madness of that for days. So I click the thing and I stand up and I'm happy to reveal this. Everybody's giving me attention. I tell them that we're Jewish, and my older brother, who's the godfather of the family, says, pass the rolls, please. And everybody goes back to talking about something else. So the first Jews are the Armenians. Now, everyone who studies knows that. It's the Armenians that are the first Jews. They're all over. Yerevan is one of the oldest, not the oldest city on the planet. Okay. I have a star. I'm actually world famous in Yerevan and in Russia. Remarkable. I don't know why, but I'm invited there all the time. And my closest friend is the Armenian. Look him up, Artavas Pelajan. If fire is the metaphor, I make sparks. This dude makes lightning bolts. Look at his movies. So I feel Jewish. I don't use the, did I say that the Jews gave up the vowels so that you can, did I tell you that?
Yeah, that was
So I don't use that. The film I created is an autodidactic experience. It's aimed at your right brain. This film, because of the experience I've been in, I come from a swamp, okay, alligator. This is a reptilian brain. Philip and I usually do the composition. I write the poem, he does the composition. In this case, I said, Philip, you must give me the score as well, please. That's all the dinglings that go. If you notice in this film, those of you who may wish to see it, there's much more in there than Philip Glass, but it all works as a collaboration with the master. So they're dinglings, they're sounds from space, they're speaking in tongue. There's words that, like in a dream, they may fly through and you don't know where they came from, and they're in black and white. And so it's like a waking dream, and it's daytime dreaming, and it puts you right to sleep, and it opens your eyes to another world. And that sounds like ooga mooga. It is. It's called sympathetic magic. Look it up. And that's magic through clarity through distortion. That's what I do. Distort what you think you see into what is actually there.
And this is one of many collaborations with Philip Glass. You also had some other amazing collaborators on the project, Brian Bellotti, and so many more. Do you want to say something about how
Sure.
you about collaborating?
Yeah. First of all, let's take Suzanne Deheim. She's from Iran. She has a voice that's irrepeatable. She starts it. I give her a form. First of all, nobody wanted to work with her because she's so difficult to work with. You can't write notes for what she does. So together with consciousness, you conjure the music by talking. Okay. So she, without saying a word, is the mother muse. This film is a female film. Change the adverb or the pronoun in the Bible. It's Adam that ate the apple. It ain't Adam. It's Eve that ate the apple, but it's Adam's apple that this film is about. It's Adam that ate the apple, not Eve. So this is a female film. It's the female is who the male is. We're all together, all at once, the same creature. But it's time for Cybele, the goddess of old. I'll use her as the example. Happens to be my daughter's name as well. But she was the Zeus. It was freer. It was with love. It was with tenderness and clarity, sympathetic magic. And then Balot. Here's a guy I met through Robert Wilson. He says, I don't know what to do with him, but you're gonna know. You crazy like this dude. And he's the gibberish man. He can stand up. I'd give the phone number out to his telephone number. It takes 5 minutes to reach him. He's speaking in gibberish. He talks like the guys on the adverts, but better. He's better at it. So I wanted him, and he delights. He and I are doing a film right now as I speak from C-SPAN on the election of the Speaker of the House. I'll say no more. And that'll be finished soon. And then there's Mike Tyson. When I said I wanted Mike Tyson, people jumped over the wall. He's a fucking criminal. He's got 500 charges on him. Well, I said, that's perfect. He's a criminal to fight criminals. I met him by seeing some movie about him that Spike Lee did on Off-Broadway, and he's a genius. He never missed a word. He spoke clarity in a way that I haven't heard at Harvard University. Okay, I said, I need that guy. He said, you'll never get him. So I bothered him and I spoke to his subconscious to make it clear. And he invited me finally to a place called De Niro's Restaurant in Lower Manhattan. And he said, look at me, mother. Put your hands right in front of my face. Now you tell me what you're saying. So I talked for a half hour. And he said, you're speaking right to my subconscious. Let's go have dinner. And we had dinner, and De Niro paid for the meal. And that's the rest of the story. He's the mentor for these kids.
That's a show, Godfrey. So if there's anything else you want to tell us, please do. But
I want
thank
to
you
say
so much.
this,
Yeah.
like Randy Rose is the great Randy Rose. I'm not the great communicator. My name is Yerp Dog. Everything is backwards. Godfrey. Bye bye. And Reggio's the legacy.
Everybody, this was Maestro Godfrey Reggio, the great filmmaker and collaborator. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.